All right, Saturday video portfolio update. I'm pretty damn confused. Gold closed above 2,500. Silver is seriously lagging. Which one's correct? I would say gold is correct because gold is the king and silver is, industrial as well as monetary. So I believe gold, but there's such a divergence between, I don't know what the ratio is, probably more than 90, which is pretty historically extreme. But the point is, we've just had this flush in the markets and we've just bounced all the way back. And I don't know if that's allowed to happen. Normally, you're supposed to retest. Did we have a retest? Not really. Are we going to? I think we are, but we're so close to just reaching the old highs. The bounce has almost been complete. So I'm actually a little confused, and that's why the charts help. So, well, anyway, you'll hear about my confusion whilst I go through every chart. Let's look at DXY first. Now, DXY, for me, it's all about 102. If we close below 102, I'm sorry, but you are supposed to go all the way back down to 100.8, which was that line in the sand. Look at this horizontal one. I've had it for ages. It's 100.8. I remember that. Maybe we bounced at 101, whatever, it's the same thing. But that 102, you can see we've had higher lows. We've bounced on the ascending. It's really, really significant. So a close below 102, which we could happen in one day. Look at that. That was close at low of day. That could take us all the way down. And actually, it will. I'm going to say that. But last time, the reason we got all the way down here was the US dollar, Japanese yen. This time, the yen, the US dollar, Japanese yen is all the way up here. So, it won't. This signifies the drop in the markets we had. Now, if the DXY goes down, I actually think it will, the US dollar, Japanese yen will come down too. It won't go all the way down here, but does a drop in the US dollar, Japanese yen equal a drop in the markets? It might, but I don't know. So that's something to look at. But either way, DXY flushing will definitely help gold go even higher, and it's more likely that that happens. So DXY down, a close below 102 would just combine with gold closing on the weekly above 2,500. That should just continue. Again, the markets, look at this. Look at this bounce. What the hell is that? Like down here, I would think, retest, maybe go down, maybe gap fill, which is what I was saying in the video. Watch for a move all the way to the gap fill and then a rollover. Look what it did. Yeah, the gap fill was resistance. You could see 2 or 3 days. Here I'm looking at the S&P, but it just kept going, took out descending. Now we're close all the way up here. This is the S&P, obviously. Next up is just the old high. There is no other resistance. I'm not going to look at all the charts, but it's pretty Dow Jones, pretty similar. Okay, this one's just hasn't taken out the descending, but 1 or 2 days from the Russell is okay, always the weaker one. There it's completing a gap fill. The Nasdaq though, okay, the S&P is a bit stronger. That was probably 2 huge days. But the point is, look at this V bottom. That's just way more than I thought it would do, way more than a gap fill. Anyway, that's just general markets. Let's look at what we're interested in. Let's actually go to bonds because that's quite interesting. Yields should come down with the dollar, you'd expect. So, and so far so good. So when the DXY goes to test and maybe close below 102, maybe we see bond yields come down. So obviously bonds going up. The 2-year, look at the 2-year, that's important. Look at that. Complete retest of resistance. So what happens now? This looks like the US dollar Japanese yen chart. So it's all about the DXY and yields, but mainly the DXY, I would say. I just don't know what's going to happen if the dollar goes down, do markets go down too? And if the markets go down, do they take down the miners? Do they take out the miners? And do they take down silver? Because gold seems to not really care. Gold's gone up with the markets. And remember, gold went down on that day where the market crashed. So I've got a lighter load of miners and I'm sticking with it, although I'm thinking, Jesus, I should have just added and not sold as much. I did add at the bottom, but I traded out of that when the gap fill happened. And since then, we've just gone up, I don't know how much percent. So it's not that I regret it. I kind of want the markets to go down. I want miners to go down, but this gold closed above 2,500. Let's look at gold. Look at that. Just beautiful. This has been strong. Even during the drop, even during this US dollar Japanese yen carry trade thing, it was, it went down just a little bit. What is it, 3-4% or something from the absolute peak? Not even 4% from the peak. That's nothing. You had Nvidia down 15% in a day or something. And look where we are now, closed above 2,500 on the weekly, not just the daily, just above this ascending resistance. There's no resistance, by the way. So what happens Monday? Where's support? Well, it's 2480 prior resistance. Otherwise, it doesn't even matter. Otherwise, 2440. Just 2480 is support, and I don't even think it will count on one day. I think we'll just keep going. You know, may have a little bit of a red. Actually, may even squeeze straight away. But gold is just invincible. You know, not even any point in talking about resistance, even support. Silver, on the other hand, okay, that's come up. It had a little bit of, and I mentioned this has a lot of resistance on the way. So I kind of understand why it's lagging. It's because it had to get through some barriers that didn't exist for gold. This descending was a bit of a level for 1 or 2 or 3 days, but boom, on this day here, clearly closed above. Then we have Friday closed at a high of day, starting to not even outperform. Gold's had actually quite a good day on that day, but it's starting to see some strength, closed at a high of day. For me, resistance is that circle area. So it's really between 29 and 29.50. If gold starts to run, I can see silver having a little pit stop at 29.50, but otherwise, yeah, starting to get into the 30 range. But for me, yeah, between 29 and 29.50, you got this range. So that circle could stay where it is. Then I'm assuming it'll take 1 or 2 extra days to get here. Then is this descending, which is actually the type of resistance that we're currently experiencing on things like I don't know, the NASDAQ. No, sorry, the S&P, I think it is. It's the Dow Jones, whatever. Yeah, you know, this kind of descending. There are probably some other markets that have very similar charts, but anyway, that's the one I could think of because we just looked at it. But this descending, that'll be the next place after 29.5. Then you got to take out the horizontal following the descending, so that'll be 31.5, and then the old high up here. So that's quite a lot to get through, you know, and gold is currently here. You know, gold, the equivalent is like new highs, let's say 33, 33.5. So I mean, you could look at the gold silver ratio, but you can tell very quickly silver is nowhere near as strong, but it's starting to catch up. My problem is if the markets start to drop again, and I don't know why, I do actually have a feeling that there's something out there. And if they drop, right, let's just imagine it drops, silver will very quickly be back down here, and gold will probably be strong again, you know, retesting 2480 or something. So it's just one of them has to catch up either way, catch up or catch down. But silver is definitely weak. And all right, I've made that point. Look at the miners. Miners are stronger than silver straight away. Look at GDXJ. Close at high of day, close above resistance at 46 something. You know, even if you take it up here, that's just strong. Next stop is up here, 47, let's say 20. And then you got the old high. Yes, gold is outperforming, but to be honest, the miners, or at least GDXJ, has started to catch up. Took out its descending a while ago, so that's stronger than silver at least. That looks good. SILJ, you can forgive it. It's kind of where silver is, right? So SILJ is, you know, it went down the most. It's come up the least, but still close at high of day, close above this descending. So a bit of potential. If silver starts to catch up with gold next week, let's say gold runs or maybe just goes sideways. But if silver starts to catch up, then we could very quickly be in a good position, and you know, it starts to look all a bit more bullish for the silver related assets. But it's following silver, so you can understand that. GDX though, that's the strongest one. The big senior defensive ones are leading the way still. Close at absolute high of day, cleared all resistance except for the old resistance, the old high, which is 2.5% away. That's just Monday, it gets there pre-market or something, or at the open if gold keeps running. Basically, it's just one mini resistance away from new highs. So GDX looks very good. All right, let's look at the actual portfolio. Newmont, obviously this has been strong for some time. I remember it's good earnings there. It didn't drop whilst everything else did, and then boom, 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 new highs, and it's just looked formidable since. This doesn't surprise me. Closed above 50, big round number. Resistance is its old high. It's like 1% away. Not even. This is just going to keep going. Next stop after it takes out this 50.7 will be 52.8. In my opinion, the old high up here during this period. Once it takes that out, it'll be 55. And then we're into the absolute massive zone where obviously there's resistance on the way. I'm not going to try and find it now, but you know, we're done at that point with all of this period. So once you take out 55, Newmont can play in its new little sandbox. And I think, you know, if gold really starts to run and it's some long-term trend, which I believe it will be, you know, like gold's going to 3,000 and 4,000, 5,000, because inflation will not stop. They'll cut rates, doesn't matter who's in power. Then we're talking about Newmont reaching its old highs and making new highs, and that's still 100% move pretty much from where it is. So we can look forward to that in the future. But Newmont is looking good right now. And yeah, I'm just looking at 50.8 and then, you know, this range all the way up here, 52.8 for now, and then 55. That's really the three resistance points on the way. Support, don't care. Don't care. It's going to be the ascending. Very, very strong. Barrick Gold, that's got to catch up. But my goodness me, it's starting to catch up. The last few days been very strong. I remember buying down here also. That was nice. I thought we'd have resistance at the descending, the horizontal up here, and we had a bit, but it was just, you know, and it had good news. It wanted to make new highs. I could sense that too. I knew that the resistance wouldn't be as strong as I thought because it had good news just here. So pretty much went straight through following gold's price. It's probably one of the strongest, might be the strongest senior at the moment. It hasn't made new highs like a lot of them, but it's taken out the descending. It's taken out the long-term descending and all the little horizontals that come with it. And it happens to be timed with gold making new highs. What comes next? Well, 20 should be resistance, but honestly, I don't think we care about 20. I think we just go straight through a little 5-minute resistance, whatever. Basically, we're going to start touching this 20.7 resistance. And after that, in my opinion, there's absolutely nothing until, you know, we'll stop off maybe here, 23.5 or something. But there's nothing until the old high all the way up here at 26. So Barrick Gold looks extremely strong. You know, you want to buy strong stocks, and Barrick's been not strong for a while, but right now it's very strong and it's got a long way to go and it's coinciding perfectly with gold's breakout. So Barrick Gold, very happy to hold. Actually, it's my number one holding at the moment. I've trimmed it the least out of all the others. So hold Barrick. Okay, Agnico-Eagle, another. These three are just monsters at the moment. I mean, compared to, I've got quite a few silvers that are lagging and all that, but these three, and they make the top holdings, to be honest, they are very strong. Agnico, look at that. Even the day before, it popped its head up, making a new high. So it's obvious that was going to continue with strength. Bam, closed at 80. Closed at 80, new highs along with gold. This thing, next stop for me is 84.4. I think I've got a tiny trim at 84.39, but it's going to be a tiny trim because I know this thing just wants to make a new all-time absolute highs. And we got the, you know, after this 84 point whatever, 0.4, you got 87. To be honest, it's up here, isn't it? You've got 88. Basically 88, 89. You're going to be touching 90 at some point. You're going to be touching 90. That's more than 10% away, but I think Agnico can make it quickly. So here it's not even a question of support. Support is going to be the, you know, old resistance up here, 87 point, sorry, 78 point, just 78. And if it keeps going down for some freak show drop, which I would actually welcome, I'd like to have the miners drop, but I would add to these very strong seniors. I'd like to buy them again if they do drop, and that'll be the ascending. But otherwise, yeah, all the way up there, 84.4 and then 88 to 90. Let's say that'll be the last resistance, and then it's blue skies. And I can imagine Agnico at $100 pretty easily this year. Okay, next one, Pan America. Now, this is also a senior that usually is worth the same as these. It pretty much is still worth the same as these. That's how much I've added, and then I sold here on this gap fill and re-added here. But because, and it's touching its resistance, it's gap fill resistance, by the way. But it's you know, silver's weak, silver miners are weak, Pan America's weak, plus it had bad news. So normally if silver was not acting strangely, or if Pan America didn't have bad news, or definitely both, this thing would be making new highs more than the others, more quickly than the others. But it is what it is. So right now we're at resistance around 20.5. Next stop of resistance will be this descending. It depends how fast we start moving up, but about 22 maybe could be resistance for Pan America. Again, you'd have to watch the silver itself. But if silver starts to encounter resistance as this thing is nearing around here, I'd expect 22. After that, it'd be the next, which should be, in my opinion, 23. Just because the two highs up here. And then I think if you take out 23, you're not going to stop off at the next high up here. You're going to go all the way to the old highs because something's probably happening in silver, and that something is probably a massive catch up to go with gold, which is probably still running. So I would just have those two areas, or three actually, in case you are interested in trimming. I would have, these three areas. Don't know why I keep doing that. So, 22, 23, 24. Pretty easy. Yeah, but I just have this feeling that silver, it's not necessarily silver telling us something, but gold is running. Remember, gold is like geopolitical go-to thing, inflation. You got central banks around the world buying it. They're not buying silver, they have to buy a lot of silver to do the equivalent. They're buying gold, and silver could, follow like copper's demise if there's a recession, whereas gold, you could see some drops if there is serious panic, but otherwise gold could even go up if there's mediocre panic. So I don't know which one to follow. So my holdings are light medium. They're not heavy like they used to be. And obviously I wish they were heavy because we had a nice bounce in gold in particular, some of the miners, but Pan America has been one of the ones that I've been trimming quickly because of the lack of strength in silver and also the bad news it's had. I've seen a lot of silver stocks that have had bad news. Fortuna, First Majestic, and you can see that they remain weak for some time. All right, that's Pan America, the three resistance on the way down. Yeah, maybe it is relevant. Here's your first stop around 1940, and then really $18, just above $18, where we've found support before, but you can see higher lows. So you may have to buy a little bit above 18 to get that if you're scared of missing it. Next one, Wheaton Precious Metals. This one, fair enough. It's not making new highs like the other seniors, but it's still pretty decent. Found nice support here. Bounce closed at high of day. Next resistance is 60. I think that's fair enough. And after that, again, I'm not going to do some little mini levels. I think if you're starting to move up, it's to test the old highs. So 63, 60 and 63 I've got for resistance. On the way down, nope, not anymore. If you really want to be cute, then maybe something like this. Just that resistance on those and a bit of support there. So I'm going to say 56, and then the old lows at 53. But you'd have to wait and see what's going on. Why are we dropping? Is it some start of something new? If we have that market crash, remember, everything goes down. I don't want to forget about that. Everything looks good. We made 2,500. You get all excited. You add on the way up, add at the highs, add at breakout. But when we had that crash, I remember looking at myself and saying, you idiot, these things happen and you should have sold when things look good because everything goes red. CDE down 9%, Barrick Gold down 5%, Newmont down 3, 4. They're all down. All the good, the bad, everything gets crushed. And, down 10% is way worse than, I mean, obviously it's worse, but it's you see more of a drop in your portfolio than when you're up 10%, right? If something gets cut by 50%, you got to go 100% just to get back there to the black. So yeah, those big drop days they're worse than they appear. Okay, Franco Nevada. Now this one had bad news, and I was a bit late to buy, so I bought at 115 point something, 0.12 or something, which ended up being quite a nice buy. I knew that even chasing it off the bottom would not be that bad, and here we are, like 122 pretty much, an old resistance point. This one I can move up. That'll be there. So yeah, we've got 122.5, let's say, is resistance. I think we're going to cross that immediately on Monday if there's any continuation. Then I got this 125.5, let's just say, and then 130. It's all about 130. It'd be quite impressive. It had bad news. The fact that we're already going back up and taking out the bad news is quite impressive. Although I've just realized that there's a gap fill there. So maybe I should move that there. Well, anyway, I think we continue going up actually, because I think Monday will be good for gold and general strong mainstream miners like Franco Nevada. So it's really going to be 125.5, and then after that 130. That's the resistance on the way up. If we can close above 130, we can finally talk about 140 because this is a beast of a stock, and we should be touching up here. I think I don't care about the bad news. It's all being priced in, and this is a monstrous stock. So it should be reacting very strong like a lot of the others. Support on the way down, the old low, 114. Metalla, yeah, it hasn't even been able to really muster more strength than the gap fill that it's already done. We filled the gap up here before at 270, and we're kind of still chilling at 270, even though we've had the whole extra week of trading days. So it's weak. Next stop, if somehow we manage to climb to 3, which is nothing, this is absolute lows. That 3 might be a bit of resistance, psychological, and also old high. And then you've got this little descending. To be honest, now maybe $3 will be the massive descending breakout. The amount of time it takes to get there, it might end up being the descending breakout, and that would fit in perfectly. You close above 3 if it takes some time, and then bam, you're going to test 350, and then finally you can take out 4. But for that, you need gold to run, but gold is running. So this is just constantly weak, this Metalla. I'm not adding to Metalla anymore. I might trim if I'm slightly in profit from what I bought, but I'm not looking to add anymore. I think that money is better elsewhere. All right, time to look at the silver ones. First Majestic had bad news again, 1 or 2 weeks ago. And that's after already. So this is just lower highs, lower lows, very, very weak. But look where the hell it got to, 440. Ridiculous stuff. So we bounce, and it does make new highs. I thought it would take a lot to get to 570. I think I sold actually. I sold some. I trimmed very lightly some silver miners on Friday across the board. So First Majestic, even CBE, I'll get to that. Fortuna, EXK, Mag, Silver, and even Hecla. First trim on Hecla because it's just had a hell of a run. And yes, that's even though gold is closing above 2,500, because just in case I don't want to call it a fake out because gold doesn't do fake outs, but in case we drop, I just not up for seeing a lot of these silvers give up a lot of the profit they made because they bounced a lot, but it's still a weak asset. Silver is weak, you can feel it. And I feel like it will go down like 3% in one day, and then all that percentage gain you've made in silver stocks could be wiped out quickly. And I think if you trim a little bit and then buy a drop like that, if it does drop and you buy it back, you can really move your average down, or just minimize loss, maximize gain, however you want to call it. For First Majestic though, 570 for me is first real resistance. I thought 520 was. I trimmed into that. That's done. I'll leave it there because it could be support. But 570, and if it somehow goes higher than that, you've got this little gap fill here around 609. And on top of that, look, the amount of time it's taken us to bounce, and it's bounced quite a lot quite quickly. But the point is, if we do keep going, this descending line could come into play. So this one here, I mean. So, like here would be a bit of a sell if we somehow continue to go up. So for me, trim here, although I did trim on Friday, just in case we don't get there. That's only 3-4 cents away, so it's the same thing. But yeah, 570, and then I'm gonna call it $6. So even the psychological, so it'd be like psychological number, descending, gap fill. This area here should be sell zone. And if it goes even higher, who knows? I could trim 625 because that's the last stop until up here, which was resistance when everything was good. And here we've had bad news since. Buying on the way down, well, maybe here, but I actually wouldn't be buying here. I'd be fearful of another drop to 5 or lower. So watch out with the drop. I hope it drops. Actually, again, I've sold quite a bit, and I'm looking for a drop because I'm really hoping that there's a bit of a drop. Let's say, okay, Fortuna. Boom, bad news, drop, down it goes. Was it bad news, or was it just trading with the whole sector going down? Anyway, up it went, gap fill. Obviously, I sold gap fill. I sold gap fill everywhere, so I don't even need to say that. Then we kept on going, wall of worry, and I trimmed Fortuna, not because it was a particular resistance. I just kind of trimmed all of my silver stocks across the board a little bit. Just as gold was testing, breaking out 25, I thought, okay, let's just do the counterintuitive thing. Let's just trim tiny, such a small amount, but it's more for psychological reasons. So next stop, I don't feel like selling anywhere nearby because I've already done that, will be here. It's the old support. Let's call it 480. Right, it's about 480. I can move it up because I've sold already here. Plus it's the descending. So about 480, maybe 479, 478. If it gets there, I think I'm going to put in a good till cancel, just another trim. Because if we keep going, fine. Now we're trading in this new range, which is the old range up here. So, okay, I've done, if I sell here, okay, been there, done that, don't need to care about that anymore. Now I'm only interested in selling, 538, 539. So then I don't care what happens. Even if we go up here and come the way back down, I've sold nearby it. So I just want to take care of this range. I've actually taken care of this range, but that's just a general sell because of silver. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at in Fortuna. Let's say 479. And then yeah, 539, which I don't think we'll get to too easily. That would ask quite a lot. On the way down, again, should be a zone, but I would ignore it. That could be taken out in one day or like half a day. So I'm just gonna say the old lows or just a bit above, like $4. All right, CDE monster. So this bounce was ideal. Gap fill, sold that because I bought the low. I forgot where, but I bought somewhere on this drop. Kept going, sold 599, and now it's going to keep going. This has been one of the strongest silver stocks for some time. You know what? This I can delete. 660 probably, just in case it fails to get to 680. But if silver starts to pump, this thing could get to 680 real quick. But I think I would do a mini trim at 660, tiny trim at 679, and then leave it for 750, I believe it is. Yeah, 750. So those are my three levels: 660, 680, and 750. Obviously 1 or 2 cents just below that level, as I always do. But very, very strong. For a silver stock, you look at the other ones, this is seriously strong. And it was strong even here. It was resilient, didn't drop, even though the whole sector was dropping. It finally dropped when everything else had already dropped. So this doesn't surprise me, but I'm very, very satisfied with CDE. For months, I've been satisfied. I didn't know whether it's CDE or EXK that was a better one. And then all of a sudden, EXK, which flushed a lot, which I'll show you in about 5 seconds. So CDE wins. You are the winner of the silver stocks. Even Pan America that had outperformed it has dropped way more. So CDE is the best silver stock. And I've always had a bit of a crush on CDE. On the way down, this I might actually entertain as a level, unlike the other ones that are where we're trading very close to it and that they're very weak. CDE could be a buy at 550. That's very close, but yeah, and even 5. And of course, the old low, which I don't see it getting to. Okay, EXK. Look at that. Way weaker. Look at the drop it's had. How much of a drop is that? 50% drop. Bam. Gap fill only just really done today, Friday. So I trimmed this one, not because the gap fill, I just, like I said, trimmed across the board. Next stop for me would be, well, normally I might say 320, but I'm going to go all the way up here, 330, let's say, just because I've already sold where it is. So you can see why, it was support there, it was resistance there. So let's say 328. So I'd be selling 326 probably. Now, after 327 or 8, next up would be this high here, 380, 378, which would take a lot to get there. There you would need silver to do some serious catch up with gold, because now we're revisiting bad news, and before the bad news was accounted for. So lots of selling. So 326, 378, and then if it keeps going, it depends how long it takes, but really 420. But EXK to get all the way back up to its highs, can you imagine how much good news, how high silver needs to go? You're just not allowed to go all the way up like that. You're not, that's also why I don't believe the general markets move. But they're at least reversing the BOJ decision, which sent it down. But for EXK to
make back this move with all the bad news that's been priced in. I would almost say impossible. You'd need silver to squeeze like 32 point. Silver would need to be above 32.5. And you might even need some good news from the company. You know what I mean? Like it's been bought out of, I don't know. So therefore, serious resistance and therefore know where to sell and how much to sell. Would I need to get aggressive in my sells? I won't, because it's not, I probably should be more like that, like be all out and then buy something else like Hecla on a drop. But anyway, what I can at least do is sell the obvious levels. And I trimmed very lightly already. If we get up here, I will sell. If we get here, I will sell more heavier amounts. And if by some chance we get higher, I'd sell even more. Okay. And by the way, for the drop, I'd look at the old lows. Imagine a big red bar straight away. You're below 280. It takes one other day and you're at 250 again. So I'm actually going to remove this just to make sure I don't make the fatal error. Mag Silver. This one is stronger than the others, right? It doesn't beat CDE, but it beats maybe even beats Pan America, but beats First Majestic, EXK, Fortuna. Did I miss Hecla? I think I missed Hecla. I'll go to Hecla in a second. So Mag Silver, $13. You know, it's basically one great day away from its old high of 14. One very good day, 8%. I think it just needs silver to take its hand for that because it's very difficult to get Mag Silver all the way up to 14 if silver is seriously underperforming. But you can tell Mag Silver deserves to be there, will be there if silver shows any signs of life. I trimmed, like I said, I trimmed all the silver stocks a little bit based on gold testing 2,500. It's not because I didn't think gold could take out 2,500. It's just because I thought silver's weak. And if we have any drop, then you'd see them all lose like 3-4% in a day. And then I'd regret it. But I'm not selling anything until we hit 14 now because I think MAG is very strong and can make 14. So just in case I'm wrong and silver runs, then I think we see 14 in 1 or 2 days. Now on the drop, I have no enthusiasm to buy early, but this was a gap fill zone, 12.5-ish. See a little bit of support, a little bit of resistance on the close basis, on a gap fill basis. So 12.5 is a tiny bit of support, but again, I wouldn't be buying that. Maybe 12 just because it's a psychological number, because it's a strong stock and because I can't see it going down to its old lows unless the whole market's flushing. I'm gonna say it's 12.5, 12, and 11.5, quite simply, just above its old low, and then 14 for resistance. All right, let's go to Hecla. I can't believe I forgot that. Yeah, so Hecla bought the drop. Did I? No, I didn't sell. It was the one and only one I didn't sell on the gap fill because not only was it good news, but I didn't own, it wasn't worth enough. And I was selling other silver stocks, not just silver stocks, but other mining stocks on the gap fill. And I just kept it thinking we were going to go down anyway, so I could buy more, but actually it went all the way up. And then on Friday, I finally sold. I sold around 565 or something like this, not the absolute high, but you know, middle of the zone. I just thought it's worth a lot. And actually, after selling it, it's worth still more than some of these silver miners. And I mean, it's been great trading, so might as well take some profit. And I just thought silver, like I said, I thought silver was stretched. So if it comes back down, although Hector will outperform and not go down as much as the others, it'll still come down and I can buy back what I sold or even more. But otherwise, also I saw 5.8 as a level. I had this in for some time. And we were so close to it, I thought might as well drop my sell in here. It's the same thing. Now, if we do take out 5.8, I don't see any resistance until 6.2, the old high is 6.3. So it's a general zone. You can see what I mean by that. Let's just do that kind of middle of the range thing. Yeah, 6.2, 6.35, that entire area. And then next up is $7. For support, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. It's not obvious. I'm just going to delete it and leave it. I'm sure it'll become obvious later. maybe 480, maybe 5, I don't know. Okay, that was a bit scrambled, that one, but let's go to the next one. Aris Mining. This is always a bit of a difficult one to call. This one's one of my, I think it's my lightest holding, actually. Just I sold quite a bit of it and I didn't really buy it back because I thought it'd come down more, and in the end it didn't. And now we are testing the descending. So I mean, once we take out the descending, the next stop is going to be this 4.5, which it could get to on Monday. Actually, it's a bit of a strange one. And then you got 4.7, and then you got 4.8, and 4.8 is massive because it's the old high before a huge move. This entire gap zone to 6.6. It's not actually a gap, but it's just a void. So this one could squeeze, and I would really regret it being my lightest one. So I'm not selling any more unless I see serious weakness all of a sudden in the sector whilst it's testing its old highs. But this one, the descending, which is pretty much it's testing right now, then 4.5, 4.7, 4.8. On the support, it's going to be the old low down here, 3.7. I think I'll just make a note of that here because it has been quite good. So I might actually consider buying that. Next one is I Am Gold. This has been an absolute vertical rocket. It had some good news. You know, it had some bad news a while ago. I forgot when. Yeah, like here, gap down. But I noticed, you know, it's gapping down like Fortuna, like First Majestic. But unlike those, it wasn't losing its support over here, this 3.5 zone. And then it kept on going, and then bam, down. I think that was bad news again or something. Oh, this was the market crash. I thought, oh, it's gonna finally lose its support. So, and I even sold a little bit, thinking, it's not gone down as much as the others. Of course, it's gonna flush. And you know, it had some good news. I forgot when, maybe here, and just absolute this day here, just monsters up, takes out the descending, doesn't care about my little lines. Who cares about your lines? 4.35, that was clear resistance because it was the old high. So fair enough, the horizontal it respected, but it's just next day straight up, doesn't care about the old high at 4.6. That was the most obvious resistance. Closed above it, and then you start seeing gold continue up. Now it's taken out 2,500, and this thing's closing above 5. This thing, and I've been trimming this. I've been trimming it very lightly. It's always worth the same amount every day. Like it goes up by $300, I take out $300. Next day it goes up by 260, I take out, you know, 250. So it's always worth the same. It's like a nice thing I like to do. Obviously, it would have been better to never sell anything, but you never know if it's going to keep going up or just flush. And I obviously thought that the market would flush. And now the next stop is this 5.35, 5.4. Do I sell that also? Tiny little trim, tiny trim. I think I will, just to be consistent, because after this, there's nothing really until 6, maybe even higher, 6.15 or something. And after that, and it's not too arrogant to think of these numbers because, you know, 7.2, because look where it's been. And this has got good news. This is a good stock. And yeah, after 7.2, that's when you start looking at double digits, $10. You know, where did it come from? Over there. Look at this little gap, and yeah, it's like even more than $10. So go on, I'll add it in. It's not going there for weeks, I would say, but still, just to get some perspective. Support on the way down was going to be this old resistance 4.6. Then after that's going to be 4.35. And after that will be the descending retest, and it won't go lower than that. Next one, B2 Gold. Now, this one had bad news. Quite a few of them had bad news to go with the drop in the markets. I bought this nowhere near the lows. But anyway, it's gone up since then, but so has gold. Filled the gap where I sold, of course, I believe. Or was B2 Gold the other exception as well as Hecla? Well, anyway, closed at high of day on Friday. I've got this little level here, which I won't be selling. I'm sorry. I'm not selling down. Zoom out. Where are we? What the hell is going on? Yes, it's got a Mali operation, which is at risk of being, you know, pillaged and overrun, just taken over by the government, by Russian forces, let's say proxies. Basically, the Mali government's totally allied to the the Russians, thereby the Chinese, and its little alliance, its neighboring Burkina Faso, and what's the other one? Niger, I think. So they've got the strong little alliance, and they don't like the West. They don't like the Western companies, which is just an extension of the West. I mean, it's B2Gold is hardly working for the US government, but in their eyes it is, and fair enough. So for me, I've always thought that operation should be considered as no longer part of their assets, even though they say that they have some agreement with the government. That's just not even worth the paper it's written on. Whatever. That's just geopolitical stuff. For me, I think it's worth way higher, even if they lose the Mali operation. So selling down here for a small gap fill with gold at 2,500 plus, and this giving a nice dividend. No, thank you. So I'm not selling this gap fill. Next step would be 2.87. I'm not selling that. Next resistance would be 305. That probably would be resistance. I'm not selling that. 317, maybe. Because by the time we hit 317, let's imagine we have this really good run where it's just perfect and unrealistic. We're so close to this descending breakout that you might as well sell something here, because the next one's just 10 or 20 cents higher. And if it does keep going, you could sell again. Because after we take this out, and you could see it's the same zone when you zoom out, whether you sold at 316 or 339, it's the same thing. Because if it starts to move, it's a big move. And who cares whether you sold here or 10 cents higher? So just cut it into two sells, maybe. But selling all the way here for my gap fill at 270, no, not doing that. And so maybe a small trim when it tests its old highs, or when it's testing this massive descending breakout, which stretches back like over 4 years. But that's the plan. Otherwise, if it goes back down again, maybe buy at the absolute lows. But there's only so many times you can buy. You got to look at how much it's worth, and maybe you're wrong. Maybe it goes to new lows because maybe they take out the Mali operation, and maybe I was wrong and it wasn't priced in. Down it goes to $2, and you were saying no to a sell at $3, and now it's at 2. Or maybe it goes to 2 and you thought it'd be above 3. So B2Gold, I'm holding what I've got to sell much higher. And if it drops, then I'm willing to maybe buy in the absolute lows. Equinox, beautiful, but yes, I mean, I kind of bought the drop on a lot of them. But look at this ascending. It filled the gap, sold too early as always. But I didn't sell everything on Equinox. Equinox has sold half. It went up. I did not sell Equinox on Friday, did I? I've sold and bought so many stocks. I think I'm waiting for a move higher because it was a good candle. It took out the descending. I think it's going to act favorably to a gold one on Monday, which I think will happen. So 559, little trim at 559 to take care of this general area, this 5.6, 5.7. I'm going to call it 5.6. So 559, just trim. Then I'm all out of what I bought down here. And then if we come back down again, cool, let's do it again. Buy on the ascending. If it keeps going, cool, let's sell. I would say 6, but I'm going to say 620. So therefore, 609, maybe 609. Otherwise, I could gamble 615, 1 cent below the old high. But yeah, 559, and then let's say 610-ish, okay? And then we'll see, let it run, because good stock, good company, well run, etc. And the chart looks pretty good. If you start taking out 6, especially 650, then it's like squeeze time all the way up to 9, which is another 50% run just from 6. So Equinox looks very good. And I think long term, this thing's going to be beautiful. So I'm in no hurry to sell too much. Then SSRM, which I'm covering here at the bottom. I've rearranged this deck a little bit because SSRM I've lightened, and I think still this thing can run and fill the gap and go to 10 and be one of the biggest performers, actually, if not this year, next year. I just don't think it belongs all the way up there with the more senior established ones. It needs to maybe get back to 10 before it can be considered that. But this one I'm pretty surprised because it was really weak even after there was a bit of a bounce. And then it just bounced one day all the way up here. I don't even know if there was any news. Held okay. And then look at Friday, 520. That's okay. Now, 549 is where my next sell would be. I think I put it in. I'll double check. But 549, that's where bad news started to take place. So imagine climbing above that. And this is quite a good run. This is without silver. So 549, and after that, of course, 569, little trims, and if it keeps going, then the old high 589. You can see what I'm doing there, 1 cent below where I think the big round number resistance is. But imagine you're here. Can you imagine how good the chart looks if you're testing 590 or if you're testing 570? Even 550 would be pretty good because it's just come all the way down here and like double bottom. And now you're testing the old highs. So which way is it? Is it break out or break down? Because to break down, you're gonna have to come all the way back down again. I think it starts to look really good if it's above 560. You know, taking these little highs and basically 571 close, and then you're testing here, and you go a little sideways, and then it's bam. And once you start to take out 6, this thing will run. The chart will look so strong, and you got gold obviously producing some wind in your sails. So SSRM, which looked so bad here and it was so weak off the bounce, and I sold here at 5 because I thought it was weak and would come back down. Just that Friday, I think I sold on Thursday or something, or just here when it touched here. I sold basically 499, but now it's like now it's stronger than silver is. If silver starts to do any catch up, this thing could go and test this area. And if you do test this area here, it's kind of go time for like a real squeeze. And this thing can go up even if gold and silver get smacked. SSRM is type of stock that can be green when the whole sector is just in total blood. So watch out for SSRM. Finally, SBSW, which I keep saying $4 is a fake out zone. It's all about closing above 380 before I consider buying lower. And look what it did. It closed below 4. Lots of people get stopped out, I guess. And then back up it comes, and actually platinum, palladium, and gold, obviously we know what they're doing. This thing, I reckon, could run. Take out this descending line here. Yeah, this one here. And you could easily run, then you go to 460, and then it's bam time. So SBS, but I'm not buying it. It's just, like I said, if it's not taken out the box, up or down, I'm not interested, because this one, you zoom out, it's a very small area. Yes, it's like 30%, but it's just a very high risk. So I'm not interested until it makes a move one way or the other. All right, that'll do. I can't cover all of them today. It's going to get a bit late. I hope that was sufficiently in detail and transparent. Basically, I just don't know which way it's going to go. Does gold, I think gold runs. It's already running. I think it continues to run Monday, Tuesday, and then we'll see what happens the rest of the week. But what about silver? Does it catch up? It kind of has to. But what happens if the market comes down because it's bounced so much? And normally you're not allowed to go all the way up and keep going, although that's kind of what we did after the bear market drop. So I just don't know. And, rate cuts are priced in 100%. So what if they don't happen? And what if the dollar goes down and the US dollar Japanese yen carry trade issue reemerges? There's just a bit of risk out there, and I prefer to be a little lighter than I usually am, but I'm really not sure which way it goes. So it'll be exciting. Worst case scenario for me, it keeps going up and I make money. Best case scenario, I lose money, but I can get back in with a lot on the sidelines. So I don't mind that. It's not the worst scenario to be in, let's say. All right, good luck. Let me know what you think also in the comments, and like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. That'd be much appreciated.